All right. Good morning, Cougs. It is just 10 o'clock, and I have a feeling we might be having a couple more join us. I'm going to go ahead and get started and introduce myself so we can stay on time. Yeah, we'll get started with our Coug talk for today. So my name is Leah Sanders. I work with UREC. I've been at WSU since 2016, working in campus recreation and overseeing fitness programming. And so I'm excited to share with you some of my tips and tricks for working out at home and staying active as we have our stay home, stay healthy order in place. So before we get started today, though, I have an image up here of a bunch of UREC locations, as well as some outside of our UREC locations. Our outdoor recreation, not necessarily UREC, but definitely a portion of our recreation spaces. So as you're joining or as you've been here, I want you to go ahead and use the annotate tool on your screen, and I'd like you to choose a stamp that represents you today, and I want you to annotate on this image where you find yourself wishing you were at in one of our facilities, or where you would like to be at in our UREC facilities or other. So choose a stamp that would recognize or that would represent you today, and go ahead and annotate on the image. Got some student rec center, outdoor recreation. This outdoor recreation, I was showing this slide to a friend of mine yesterday, and they were wondering where that was. That is down at Lake Powell on a spring break trip. I took that trip a few weeks ago. That is not or a few months ago. That is not the picture I took, but that was the trip that I was on. So where are we at? Chinook. Chinook is where I would like to be, either that or outdoors. I love using the workout space down at the Chinook Student Center. That's where my office is housed. And so it's a fun place to be in the center of campus there. All right, as you're coming in, go ahead and annotate on the graph where you would like to be in one of our UREC facilities, or where you would like to see yourself in one of our other spots. Anybody for the climbing wall, bouldering at the SRC? Maybe a couple of us over there. UREC has a ton of facilities, and being a part of WSU, hopefully you're familiar with some of these places. But there's lots of ways to get involved, and even though our facilities are closed, we're going to talk about ways today that we continue to stay active even though we're not in our usual facilities. So any of the pools, we do have several pools, not just the SRC, but also Gibb and Smith. So sweet. I am going to go ahead and clear this. And we're going to go ahead and move forward and talk about a little bit of tips to staying active. My first tip for you all is to find your fit. As you saw on that previous slide, there's tons of different ways to be active. And so you really have to find something that fits for you. And so for some, that might mean taking a group fitness class. For some, that might mean going to open recreation spaces, or climbing, or going for a walk outside, maybe a vigorous gardening session, deep cleaning the house. But you just have to find something that works for you. What works for one person is not going to work for the other. We know that, like, through research and through different guidelines for exercise and physical activity, they say to get 150 minutes a week, and that can look as simply as 30 minutes 5 days a week. And we know that with 30 minutes 5 days a week, that's going to help us with our overall health and reducing cholesterol and improving our blood flow, and also improved mood and sleep, and improved just overall functioning. It can increase our productivity. It can also just continue to boost our immune system, which is super important in a time like this where it's likely that our immune systems could be more compromised. And so if we are physically active, then we're boosting our immune system and helping to keep us healthy. And so as we find our fit, it's important to find something that works for you. And I also want to put a disclaimer here too, that there's going to be a lot, and there is already a lot of social media influencers that will put a bunch of different things out on social media about you should be doing this or do this while you're at home. But if you find yourself adapting to the new normal, and you find that what you used to do for physical activity or what you would like to do isn't quite matching up with what you're able to do now, that's completely appropriate, and that fits under finding your fit. And so for me, I unfollow a lot of those influencers that feel to be pressuring me to be at a spot that I'm not at, and I think that's healthy for anyone to do, so that you are able to be physically active without any pressure from anybody else. So my first tip: find your fit, find what works for you. My second tip is to be creative. So although our gyms are closed, there's lots of different ways that we can be physically active, whether that be that old equipment that is in the garage or in the basement of the house and dusting that off and using that, or using laundry detergent bottles that are empty and filling them with sand or water and allowing that to be some form of resistance. Like I said, you could deep clean the house. You could do some window washing. You could do some vigorous gardening and yard work. There's tons of different ways to be creative and find the fit that you need so that you can stay active. This could also be creating your own workouts with things that you have at home, things that might help you stay inspired and excited about being physically active, whether that be even just Zooming in with friends and having a virtual workout. I've done that a few times, and it boosts my energy and boosts my mood and makes me want to be a little bit more engaged in the workout that I'm doing. And so be creative with the things that you're choosing to be physically active with. My third tip for you is to set a schedule and a space. And so with this, if we're able to have our, space laid out, we might have had a designated time to go to the student rec center or take our lunch break and go swimming at one of our pools. We had that already ingrained in our schedule. So look to have that ingrained in your schedule now. That is going to look different, and it might even be adding something into your schedule if that wasn't in your schedule before. But set a schedule. Just like you might have had that designated time to go to the gym, set that time to work out every day. I schedule it in my calendar because then I know that I won't have meetings scheduled over it. I get reminders on my phone that tells me, oh, it's time to go work out, or this is where you're headed to next. And it keeps me accountable. And it also keeps me looking forward to that in my day. Even if your schedule changes day to day, I think it's helpful to have that designated time for movement. So to put that in your schedule and set your space for it. When you're talking about setting your space, that can look like designating an area of your living room or a spare bedroom, your garage space. Maybe you have all your equipment in one place, and when it's time to work out, you grab your equipment and you set it out, and that is where you're going to. But in your mind, you have everything already prepared, and that helps to eliminate some of the barriers to actually getting physically active and getting into your routine there. My next tip for you is to set weekly goals. This is very helpful for anything that we look to achieve, to get that direction. But an idea without a plan is just that dream, right? And so we want to try to nail down the things that we're getting at. And so it's time to put action to set realistic goals and make them attainable for us. And so maybe it's working out 3 days a week, or maybe it's going to, take a walk at this time every day and whatnot. You have it in your schedule, and your goals are not going to be one size fits all. And even your goals that you had for you pre-work at home might look different than what they are now. And so choose a goal that's going to fit for you where you're at now. And then just make sure that, you're writing it out. You're putting it in your workspace. You're putting it on your calendar. You're telling people that you care about and trust about your goal, and they can help encourage you in that. And then as you work towards your goal, give yourself the freedom to reevaluate your goal and reframe it so that you continue to be successful. If you set your goal and maybe it's too big to start off with, you can scale back and change that. Or you set your goal and you are able to attain that pretty quickly. It seems pretty manageable for you. You can change that and reshape that. And so my suggestion is to set weekly goals. Take a look and see what each week looks like and where your physical activity works into that schedule, and then reevaluate as you go. And my last tip for you is to have fun with it. One of our driving values at UREC is to play and to have fun. And so as we're playing, as we're having fun, it's important that we're doing that in the midst of physical activity. This could look like getting family or different friends involved. This could look like trying something brand new that might be maybe just a little outside your comfort zone, but maybe you're able to bounce back into that zone and still allow it to be fun. Maybe it's setting up an obstacle course, or taking your four-legged friends to a new walking spot, things like that. But have fun with what you're doing. Look for different ways to be creative and enjoy physical activity. We know that physical activity, if it was sold in a pill, that it would be the most sought after pill because of the great benefits that it really does offer to our lives and to our overall quality of health. And so those are my tips for you. I do have a little bit of resources if you're interested in reading some more about how exercise increases productivity. The second one, called Step It Up, is from the Surgeon General. And it's really a plea for just physical activity throughout our nation, and how walking is super effective and something that everyone could take part in. And then I also have a linking to our UREC online offerings. We've got a ton of different stuff going on at UREC, even though we are online. We have fitness classes and trivia nights and online virtual painting nights and different ways to get involved. And so I encourage you to take a look at that. But yeah, shoot me an email if you have more questions about that or have more thoughts. But I encourage you all to get active and have fun. It definitely looks different than what we're typically used to. And so, yeah, I hope that y'all are able to get moving, especially with this weather today in the last few days, and looking into next week. So thanks so much for joining me, and see y'all back here on Monday. We'll have another great Coug Connect, and yeah, stay healthy, have fun.